Every woman has a right to a safe and legal abortion, and this government will never back down on defending and promoting women's rights in Canada and around the world.
Hashtag, as a Canadian, I'm so glad I live in a country that respects a person's right to choose. We're not like those Americans. We're a civilized country. I mean, look at who our Prime Minister is. He says all the right words. Hashtag, I stand with Trudeau.
Access to abortion services, to sexual health and reproductive rights services in Canada is a right. It was determined by the Supreme Court of Canada in the 1988 Morgentaler decision, and our government has committed to upholding that right.
As a Canadian, we have a Supreme Court with reasonable people on it. We're more conscientious than Americans when it comes to human rights. It's because of Justin Trudeau's Liberals we have this, even though he wasn't in office back then. I stand with Trudeau.
Minister, in the last election campaign, your party promised that as government, you'd establish regulations. I just want to read it verbatim from the platform. Under the Canada Health Act, governing accessibility for sexual and reproductive health services. So there is no question that no matter where someone lives, that they have access to publicly available sexual and reproductive health services.
As a Canadian, we have universal health care, not like Americans who have nothing.
When do you plan to do that, and why haven't you already?
But as a Canadian, we
it's
are
not
better.
Just New Brunswick, though, for example, where access is limited. I looked at some examples in preparing for this interview. Alberta, Ontario, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. Abortions are only, for example, offered in cities there where 35 to 40% of the population doesn't live in urban areas.
We're better than the Americans because
what your government promised in the campaign is to, for example, not just introduce those regulations, but set up sort of standards, parameters for what is equitable access, what qualifies as access. Your government hasn't done that. Your party also promised in 2019 to improve access in your platform, and you didn't, other than holding back the money from New Brunswick, you haven't done that elsewhere. So why should Canadians trust you to make good on the promise you made in the last election when you haven't already, and you had 6 years to do something and you didn't?
I stand with Trudeau.
So what we're seeing in the United States, we cannot assume that that will not happen in Canada because we're already seeing some of that very activity.
Sorry, what? This is Rebel HQ. I'm Sandee Lovas. The overturning of Roe v. Wade, while expected, still sent shockwaves around the world. The world is watching the shattering of the American empire in real time. Many of us already knew the ugly truth. Now the veil's being lifted for all to see. People continue to not understand how closely tied our two countries are. Some Americans may be looking to Canada if there's nowhere in the US they can go for abortions. No, Americans can't rely on Canada. Canada is one of the few nations where abortions are legal at all stages with no exceptions. In 1988, the Supreme Court of Canada ruled the existing laws around abortions were unconstitutional as they violated a person's right to life, liberty, and security of the person, guaranteed in our Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Reversing that would be extremely difficult, so chances are abortions will stay legal on paper. But in practice, people in need of the service face barriers, and for many of them, they're completely inaccessible. If a province has a conservative government, they find ways to defund and close abortion clinics. The federal government is supposed to crack down on these provinces, but rarely does so in any meaningful way. A province may only have 1 or 2 clinics, which means people must travel to get it done. Most of our provinces are the size of 5 states, and travel expenses are out of pocket. If you must travel to another province to get an abortion or go to a private clinic, we do have those here, it may not be covered under our universal health care. If a person must travel to the States, it won't be covered at all. How many weeks a person is pregnant will influence where they can go, as it's different from province to province. And there is nowhere in Canada that performs abortions after 24 weeks and 6 days. When people need abortions that late in the pregnancy, it's because something has gone tragically wrong. They have no other choice than to go to the States to get it done. Not only will Americans not be able to rely on coming to Canada to get abortions, there's a good chance Canadians will die if there's a federal ban on abortions in the States. So what can be said or done?
Last year we put forward $45 million to help organizations that fight and support women's reproductive rights.
Yep, a whole $45 million last year to fund the cause. And nothing was done to help, and there's no promises to make it better. Hashtag, as a Canadian, I recognize we're heading to the same place as the States. It just looks different. We're the same as Americans in most areas, and in some, we're worse. People still buy into the broken promises of Justin Trudeau, and I'll be a constant reminder you can't spell liberals without the letters L-I-E-S. Hashtag, I can't stand Trudeau. For more of my stuff, look for me on social medias left of the box. Don't forget to hit buttons and leave comments. Thanks for watching, and until next time, get informed, get involved.